Hello, this presentation is going to briefly discuss the thesis statement. That is, how to come up with one and how to develop it as you go forward in your research. What is a thesis statement? It is quite simply put, what is your topic and why is it important? This is not a general question. You might start out with a generalized topic and a general idea of why it's important. And actually, you must start out with that. But in the end, it very clearly needs to state what specific part of that topic you're going to focus on and why specifically you're discussing it. That is, its purpose, its significance, its importance to your field. This is an example of a thesis on your screen right now. Currently underutilized in the financial industry, a well-developed mentoring program aimed at bank financial advisors. That's the what. Could significantly improve retention and advisors as well as revenue for banks. Now I know why it's significant, and in theory, this is where you've gone in your paper, and everything you write as far as your literature review, which will come next, and everything that you are researching is going to come from here. This probably isn't where you start, though. You may start with a very basic thesis, in that you may just start and you want to study mentoring, and you want to study it in the financial market, and you may find as you go forward your interest level or what the majority of your information you're finding may lead you to follow the path into focusing on financial advisors and banks. But very simply, to start, even before you start your research, you have to have a general idea of what it is you want to research and why. In order to do what? Because of what reason? How is this going to serve you or your paper? And in this very early stage, it is okay to use I, but after that it will not be. We'll come back to that. And when you're starting your research, you also need to, as you're writing your thesis and coming up with your idea, you very clearly need to understand who your audience is. And for the capstone papers, it is most certainly your DU instructors. It's the general university community, your classmates and colleagues. They may be the ones who are best served to peer edit. And your current and future employers. In order to make this relevant, I highly recommend that you keep in mind that this could be used as something you could discuss in an interview. If you make it relevant to you, it will also be much easier to write. Also, before you are really getting into the literature review, you're defining your topic. What is it you really think you want to know? What coursework have you studied, or other research papers have you written in your field that have led you to have certain questions, something that you might be able to develop? What issues or trends exist that you might be able to study? In this case, I chose mentoring. What issues exist that might be relevant to your future aspirations? Again, coming back to that idea that this is something you might use going forward, either for mobility in your job or simply to get into the field that you want into. So, as you're developing your working thesis, you need to start with this idea. I want to research, in this case, mentoring, in order to prove job quality. It's very minor, but when I go to do my research then, when I go to Google, I'm going to put in mentoring and job quality. And in theory, different types of fields are going to come up, either health or business might work for the majors here at Davenport. That's too broad, though, and I'm going to need to narrow it. And as I find information, my goal is to continue to narrow that thesis down to something that I can write about and focus on, because all of the information you need to pull for that literature review needs to start to support itself and your thesis. If you stay too broad in that you don't know the real importance, I want to study this because it's important, that's obviously too broad. But even it's too broad just to say I want to study it to improve job quality. What specific parts of job quality do I want to improve? And that will continue to help you narrow it. As you do your research, write everything down. Have an idea of where you're headed and see where other authors head. This is the goal of your literature review, is to help pull things together for you so you can see where the gaps are so that you know what to write about. So as you're writing, start out with that general global idea, but have the idea of coming down more locally to what will work for your field or your specific type of interest. In this case, the financial field is where we chose to go. But it could be anything that would work for you. An example of an early working thesis then, if we start with the first person, this is your personal, I want to research mentoring because it's essential to the improvement of job quality as well as quality of the job. Still very, very general, and it uses first person. This is the only time it's okay to use first person. If someone says to you, what are you writing about? This is why it's important to you. But as you write, as you start really focusing in on the research, you need to start thinking with third person in mind. This has to be an academic paper and an academic voice, meaning first person is not acceptable, using the word I, nor is second person, referring to your reader as you. It's very important that in all academic writing you maintain third person. And by far, that is one of the bigger issues that happens when people are writing. Stay focused on that third person. It's as simple as taking the I or the you out. Mentoring is essential. It's essential to the improvement of the job as well as job quality. Again, that end is still quite general, but as you research, that's not a bad place to start. So, as you continue to narrow your topic, the suggestion usually is to focus on just one aspect. In this case, we focused on revenue for the bank, and we focused on keeping people staying in their jobs, longevity. Focus on just one aspect or component of a larger issue or study, and as you do your research, hopefully those things will come through as to what other people are focusing on, or as suggested earlier, focus on something current, something new that maybe there isn't a ton of study on, or something maybe that hasn't been used in a while that was used in the past and why maybe it should be brought back. Focus on a particular location or demographic group. Who is leaving in droves? What age group, perhaps? Perhaps the idea is to bring in younger financial advisors or maintain your more experienced financial advisors, depending on what group you want to study, or specific, maybe you want to focus on credit unions in this case, or small hospitals or large hospitals, depending on your field. Or you may want to focus on a particular time frame, like you want to keep people for 5 years. It just sort of depends on, as you're doing your research, what starts to seem important to you, and also somewhere that there is a gap. If you can identify something else that needs more study, that's what this paper is aimed at, for most cases. Sometimes instructors really just want a basic research paper, in which case you're not going to do your own research. You're going to focus on the research of others, and in that case, it's not as important to identify the gaps as it is important to identify a clear thesis.